welcome back to Inside Texas for another live show. It's a Wednesday night with Nash and Evan. Gentlemen, we doing okay?
Yeah.
Doing great.
Nash looks like he is just festive as hell right now. He's ready for Christmas to get here.
We got the Polar Express over there.
Do not, no Polar Express. We're not bringing. No, I am firmly against that. I'm sorry, Nash. We can battle that out another day on another show. There's no Polar Express talk here. That is creepy animation. Evan, if you love it, I apologize, okay? But I'm fully ready to slander. But first, guys, before we get into Christmas talk, hop on over to InsideTexas.com right now. Take advantage of the flash sale. Join for $1. You can see articles written by your own very own Nash and Evan here. You can find content from IT's finest. The boards right now, the forums are all fun because you have so much news going on. So go take advantage of that for $1 right now. Join Inside Texas. Become a part of our community. But yeah, guys, we're going to lead off with obviously the topic of the day, and that is what is happening way up in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Sharon Moore is out. All types of drama, obviously, surrounding that situation. And that's Texas's next opponent. That's who we see in the Cheez-Its Citrus Bowl. I'm today years old, essentially, when I've learned that the two are now one thing. I was paying no attention to the Cheez-Its Bowl, and here we are. But what were your first thoughts once you saw that news? This is something that I've been expecting, honestly, for a little over a month now, just because I've heard a couple of things through the grapevine about Michigan and wanting to go a different direction. But I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that news or anything like it to come out. But as far as how it affects Texas and the Cheez-Its Bowl, are y'all concerned at all that that game might not be played? But yeah, I went through it today. It was a fun day. A lot of different content out there about the Michigan stuff. What were y'all's thoughts?
I think the behind the scenes people knew about it enough that they acted quickly because Biff Poggi gets named the interim head coach pretty much immediately, and then all the floodgates open. It's funny if you're looking at some of these old tweets, like about a week ago, like early December 1st through 4th, there was a lot of people tweeting out stuff that it was not so much. It really wasn't like trying to find the word here, but people were being subtle about it. I guess would be the word about Moore having some stuff going on. And it's just kind of starting to creep up where these former Michigan players and we keep debating on if this is a real Connor Cook or not, the former Michigan State quarterback. But people have been tweeting as if this was a known thing for a while, and it's finally kind of spilling over, and a lot is spilling over right now. So I think we're going to play a bowl game. Joe said from what he knows, probably are still going to play. They do have the interim head coach. I think the players were really blindsided. Doesn't seem like the actual university itself and Ward Manuel were, but man, as someone who grew up a Michigan fan, these last two head coaches and the way they've exited has not been pretty.
I'll say I love Michigan. Real quick, I'm with you. It's kind of there's other rivals in Michigan. I'd rather see them have to go through this type of stuff before Michigan. So it's been tough, man. Crazy last few years. But go ahead, Nash.
No, I was just gonna say that when you're looking at this, I don't even think that Michigan knows that if they want to play the bowl game. Because, like you said, they just got blindsided by this. Now there were rumors, right? Maybe they kind of wanted to, they were wanting to get rid of him. And I know we've talked about this on the off channels Cord. Like, I'm personally, I don't get how these schools can go out there and fire a coach without having a guy lined up ready to go. And to me, I think that this is one of those deals. I'm not going to speculate on if another guy's going to come or not, but if they don't have another guy lined up, I'm not going to say Michigan's made a massive mistake because of the circumstances of how he got fired, but it's definitely not ideal for your football program. You would like to have that name at least lined up, but when you're talking about the players, just like having a surprise meeting out of nowhere and then he's gone, right? This close to the bowl, like this is really really close to the bowl game. I wouldn't be surprised if they say, you know what, hey. Yeah, we did name him an interim coach because you're going to do that no matter what. And if you're ever going to fire a guy or have a coach quit or something like that, you're always going to have an interim coach at any point. But I think that there's a chance that their athletic director and their athletic staff, the higher ups, they might sit there and say, hey, you know what, we've kind of come to the conclusion that it's in our best interest to, skip this bowl game.
Yeah,
what would that happen? What would that mean for Texas? Would we be able to get another opponent lined up?
Yeah, do they tier up a Big Ten team, or do they go for like the 5-7
Well, I mean, but like how many days of practice? Like,
There's going to be somebody out there that would be like, well, let's line up and play. We want the games. We don't care. I'm with you though in the sense that like I don't really think you can make it a definitive call yet, because like what happens if half this roster jumps in the portal in the next, well, it's not officially open, but they make it known they want to get into the portal, and I mean it's going to be a very intense couple of days up there for sure. I'll just spill it. I've felt like they've been up to something for quite a while. I will go ahead and say that I do think they eventually are going to have a successful poach of an SEC coach. And that, like you said in the very beginning, Nash, they I don't think they would have done this without the knowledge that they probably could get who they want.
Michigan's a smart school. They're a brain school, big brain school.
Now, let's be real. We know how that teams operate. Go ahead, Evan.
Well, it is. It does feel like if it's not Kalen DeBoer, who there's been all that talk about him going up north back, and he's from South Dakota, so he likes the cold. It's hard to coach at Alabama after Nick Saban. It's clearly been tough for him. He's not just cakewalk to the playoff. He's barely made it one year, didn't make it the other year. But I don't want to speculate too much on who is who. But that's like, if it's not him, then how many actual guys are there out there to get outside of those people who have stayed close, like the Brahms and the Keys, who were, hey, I want to stay at my own alma mater, or Clark Lee, and otherwise everyone else kind of, no one wants them. You're not going to go hire Brian Kelly to coach at Michigan after all this has happened. Like, there's just no way.
Also, I think when you're looking at this too, I've seen some people saying, what happens if DeBoer goes to Michigan, and then you're gonna have Lane Kiffin go from LSU to, first off, LSU's a pretty damn good job, right? Like that's not just a job to you get and you just hop away because another door opened and you're like, it's just like a little, okay, I was here for 10 minutes and I left. Alabama might be left in a pretty bad spot. Like when you look at the available pool of coaches, and they might their fans might pretty quickly be like, you know what? I miss that DeBoer guy. I miss him.
Imagine a scenario where Alabama has lost their head coach roughly a handful of days to a week before the portal officially opens up, and
then there's a special portal window for those players too. Doesn't matter it doesn't matter if the portal's closed.
Yeah,
well,
and so
it's not like Ryan Grubb's gonna get promoted. He'll want to go where DeBoer goes. Like
he's following DeBoer.
Yeah. He went to the Seahawks and got fired immediately. He's not going anywhere.
No. He's going to stay right there. I think they both know that they're probably a little bit better together. Is Leipold that happy? I don't know, man, but that's not the answer. That's not where Michigan will turn. Again, I think that, in my opinion, from what I heard, so the day that Texas beat Texas A&M a couple of Fridays ago, that was the first time that I heard done deal in regards to that. There's not Inside Texas reporting that. This is just people throughout the Southeastern Conference that I know that, and so maybe I might find out if I need better sources or not. But that Friday afternoon was the first time I ever heard done deal in regards to that. So like you said, Evan, if it's not him, you might see a panic mode start to set in, you know what I mean? Assuming that they think they may have him in the bag. And then ultimately it's, again, nobody knows definitively because he's not there yet. He hasn't signed a contract yet. And we know how coaches, things change. And so we will see it, but it does kind of seem like Alabama might be willing to just say, okay, all right. But then again, it puts them in a pretty sticky spot considering the timing of everything. And once again, the college football calendar has to be fixed at some point, right? I mean, at some point we got to do something about this, but yeah, I mean, and Dabo to Bama, no, I think 10 years ago,
Dabo to Bama would be a wild scenario, man.
5 years ago, I think if with Nick Saban leaving, people might have said, hey, that's a lock.
Hey, well, they may be their best choices might be Brian Kelly and Dabo Swinney. So I mean,
but why does it have to be the proven guy? You know what I mean? Like, why does it have to be, a guy that has all these skins on the wall? You're Alabama. You put a group together, go find a upcoming coach. I just don't I would do that. Is my point before I would turn to a Brian Kelly. Like, I'm sorry, but
all the upcoming coaches have been taken too. That none of the really good G5 guys are.
Well, yeah. Then you got to go into the we're really betting off the last year. Kenny Dillingham, going off.
Yeah, probably.
I you'd have to make some reaches, or
I mean,
or just whip out the bag and say, Indiana, welcome to the big league, son.
I
You know,
don't
like we
know.
don't care
I don't
about
know
your
if he'd.
contract.
I
I
don't know
don't
if
think
he'd
he would
do
do
it.
it. No,
I
yeah, I
really
don't
don't.
think. I like Signetti's like he strikes me as a very much I have my moral principles and I'm going to stick to these things.
Speaking of moral principles, how quickly you think Underwood got a call from Lane Kiffin? I mean, like 5 minutes. What's the over under here?
Pretty dang quick, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. If he's already had his eyes on a quarterback. It just seems like the timing with maybe it's nothing, but with Sam Levitt, and I don't know what's happened the last couple of days. I haven't looked too much into it. Wouldn't be shocked to see that, which that's honestly a bit of a nightmare. I don't want to see that necessarily. But yeah, I mean, obviously the domino effect of this will all be crazy. Now, assuming that what I have predicted or have said or what others have predicted is true, and that Kalen DeBoer does go to Michigan, does Alabama make another pass at Sark?
Yeah, I mean that's the most logical spot for them to go. There's ties there. There's reason for
Comfort.
Sark to want to go there, but I mean
Comfort.
Sark has publicly made it seem like he's found his final place in college sports at Texas, but you never know what his behind the scenes is, and that was where he got kind of his redemption shot and loves Alabama, loves Saban there, but that's gonna be a hard guy to draw. I mean, people will be saying the same thing over Alabama. It's hard to draw Signetti. It's hard to draw Kiffin. It's gonna be hard to draw Sark.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I don't think that that's something we'd have to worry about. I know that in my opinion, it would happen. Like
they would take a swing at him. I mean, for sure, because
you have to.
If I remember correctly, too, it was we pulled off the reverse of how the Will Muschamp was supposed to go for us. We had Will Muschamp. We were supposed to hey, head coach in waiting type guy, right? And I think that's what Steve that was the thought is, hey, Steve Sarkisian, he's the guy that Nick Saban's going to hand the keys over to. And then Texas is like, nah, we got a job open, so we're gonna make a nice little call right here, right? But I do think that it would really shock me to see Steve Sarkisian leave, and I think honestly one of the things that might be going against Alabama, and this is going to be the case with anywhere, but it's the reason why you never follow the guy after the guy. You don't want to be the guy after the guy, and the reason why is that's why DeBoer might be leaving right now, if he is, because
it's a team that if you watch there's
so much unrealistic expectations that have been, Nick Saban was really, 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 really good. I don't think people fully appreciate and understand how good Nick Saban was at Alabama. We got to see some stuff in real time that we're just not going to see again, and levels of dominance. And I think Alabama fans grew accustomed. This is honestly Texas baseball kind of found this out the real hard way too. We grew accustomed to a real nice level of dominance in the early 2000s, and the 2010s was a dark period for us Texas baseball fans, where we didn't really make much postseason damage at all. So it's just one of those deals where I sound like a broken record, but you just don't want to be the guy after the guy. And after seeing how their fans have acted towards that guy, towards DeBoer, I'd be surprised if any other coach was like, you know what, yeah, I want to go there. Maybe if you're a lower level guy or something like that, and Alabama's a step up. But when you're talking about the LSUs, the Texases, the Floridas, Ohio States, right? The blue bloods of college football, I don't think that they're going to be wanting to jump ship, especially if they're in a good spot already at their school.
I just received a text from a person that is not affiliated with Inside Texas, but a person that I trust a pretty good bit with their judgment in college football, and he said to watch out for Glenn Schumann in Alabama. That would be pretty interesting, kind of what I was talking about, but that's not exactly the name.
The Georgia DC.
Yeah, that's
really?
That would be the guy.
There's a lot of people that have floated his names for some of these big P4 jobs, but like Nash just said, you're talking about some of the blue bloods. It'd be a bit surprising, but again, something I probably do before I'm hiring a Brian Kelly or a couple of those other cats.
I'm not hiring Brian Kelly.
You're
just at that point. At that point, you're admitting that you're going backwards, right? For a few years, and Like that's where I say, man, honestly, if there's not like we're talking like tier A level coach, like top tier guy, if that guy's not available, man, like you said, Court, go out and get an up and comer, right? Because guess what? If you go out and get an up and comer, he has one bad season, you can can him out, like gone as soon as there's a good name that comes up on the board. So it's really just like an interim coach. It's just you're hiring a little bit less of an interim coach with the potential to turn into a full-time guy, like the guy.
Yeah.
I definitely agree, man. Schumann would be interesting because I mean he's put together some pretty dang good defenses. Obviously, Kirby is a big part of that. So when that split happens, Kirby left Saban, did quite all right on his own. And I'm not sitting here predicting that Glenn Schumann would have the same type of success if he were to take that job. Just putting it out there. Guys, we're going to take our first sponsor break of the night. We're going to go to Luxe Kitchen and Bath. We'll see you in 1 second.
Are you ready to love your kitchen and bathroom again? Luxe Kitchen and Bath will bring that to life. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring your dream vision to life. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team also provides full home remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today, or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get your free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE, or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Contact info is in the description.
All right, I will say this. There's a reason Ace Man is in parentheses up there, but I'm tying this into Luxe Kitchen and Bath. I made my first hole-in-one today, but literally the sentence before I hit the golf ball was talking to a buddy, and I was like, hey, do you need a bathroom remodel or a kitchen remodel? Any type of remodel, because Luxe Kitchen and Bath can help you out. And he said, I hope you hit it in the street. And then that happened. So I'm going to take that humble brag, and I had to bring it up. I'm sorry. It's never going to happen again. We take it. We're running with it. But all right, guys, let's talk Texas football for a minute. All right. We're going to talk primarily about the offensive side for the last portion of our show tonight. And I want to get your guys' opinion on scheme first. I want to talk about the ground game. Are you comfortable with the type of scheme that Texas has on offense? Do you think that is maybe attributing to some of the struggles that we've had in the run game in the last couple of seasons? Me personally, I don't put it all on scheme, but how about you guys?
I'll let Nash start with this one.
To me, honestly, I don't just block, man. Like I don't know what else to say, man. Like it's like at the end of the day, I'm not going to say any scheme works on paper, right? But like, this is a really high level of college football. Unless Steve Sarkisian is just completely incompetent, right? Like, if the players do what they're supposed to do, the plays are going to be, open. Now maybe you could maybe say, hey, are you asking too much of certain guys with the scheme that you got out there? And to that, it's get the guys that you think that you wouldn't be asking too much of then, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, man, I think it just comes down to it's either a personnel issue or a coaching issue. It's one of the two. Like, I mean, you can't I know like as fans that we don't like to call people out, and we try, and I'm not going to call anybody out because I'm not going to pretend like I know exactly where the blame is. Or I'm high enough football IQ to be able to call out a coach or a player, but at the end of the day, it's going to be one of 3 things. It's either scheme, it's coaching, or it's a player issue. There's not some magical little fourth land where it's none of those things, and then it's nobody's fault, and we can just live on happily while also watching the running offense decline. I mean, like we've talked about this before, Evan, a lot. Like this is, you can also like go to the running backs. It does feel like you look at like elusive ratings. We haven't had like an elusive guy since Jonathan Brooks, like that. Like that's like the the top tier of running back, we've been missing that level of athleticism.
Yeah, I think this is a kind of a 3-layered discussion, like you said, in another way, where just talking about personnel, it's running game comes from the running backs, the offensive linemen, and also your threat overall to be able to take the top off of the defense, because you need to be able to threaten their safeties down and up, depending on what you're trying to do. You want them to do the opposite. And I do think from a recruiting standpoint for the run game, Texas more than anything has gotten unlucky, right? Baxter, you got the number one guy. Maybe they overrated him a little bit. Maybe he wasn't quite the number one guy like you see from some other elite running back recruits, but season-ending injury. Christian Clark, you like his explosiveness. You need to get him able to play in this, P4 SEC level of play. Season-ending injury. Jared Gibson, pretty good eval overall. Can't hold on to the ball in game or in practice. At some point, it's not totally the coach's fault in diagnosing those players when injuries and the player needs to hold on to the ball is keeping them away from good players. Where it is their coach's fault is they didn't recruit offensive linemen that could do what Texas asks to, which is you gotta have this pro style identity, which means you have to learn pro style blocking, which in hand is I need you to be able to one play go outside zone and shift into an area and block whoever's there. But I also need the very next play on 2nd and 3 to run duo, and you got to learn how to double team a B gapper with your center and go in and just push that guy forward into the second level. And when you got guys like, and I hate to call him out, but Connor Stroh, who clearly was not ready to play this year, you're thrusting him into the system. Pick one, right? You got to give him one to identify if you already know that's not going to be good. I think a lot of the fault on the coaches has been they just don't know who's not good and who's not because they haven't gone to the portal to get a running backs and O-lineman. You have to be able to see that your running backs and O-linemen aren't good enough yet. And so that's partly their fault. I also do think part of it is let's get another group in and see how this looks and see if the scheme can work well, because obviously it worked really well when you had 2 elite backs in Bijan Robinson and Jonathan Brooks. And Brooks was a great recruiting win. I mean, that's a guy who ended a top 5 running back talent who got his 15th running back in his class, something around there. So that's where you can't go all the way bad or everything's bad from the staff, but they haven't been able to throw over the top. They haven't been able to block, and they're asking their players to do a lot in the run game. So I would like this year if they could get a back who is better at one thing, get an offensive line who also kind of does that thing well. And you don't need to go to 100 to 0 on your type of schemes, but if your back is just better at running outside zone and inside zone, get offensive linemen who can move in space like that. It doesn't have to be all that complicated NFL-style stuff with Sark. And I do see Chris Bennett put in there that Scott was the fall guy. I am very concerned that he was the fall guy and that this was a fire so that Sark could keep around his best friend, offensive line coach, and say, well, the run game was bad. Guys, we got rid of the run game guy. That's the running back coach, RB running game right there. I'm concerned that that's actually what's going to happen because why is it taking so long to do this? Why is it taking so long for another assistant coach who I think probably is on the way out? But there's 2 guys that everyone wants gone, and Chad Scott was not one of them, but he's directly related to one of them. So that's just my 2 cents of the whole thing.
No, I like every word that you said right there, man. And again, that's been a thought of mine as well. Like, that's probably not the first move I make if I'm looking at improving the run game, and we'll leave it at that. But yeah, definitely, hopefully that is not the case. Appreciate his time in Austin, respect to what he's done. But at the end of the day, man, it doesn't look great, on anybody when you have the running game you've had in the last 2 years. A big concern with me in the last two seasons is that, our best concept is outside zone or stretch zone. Like, we're not very good at picking up anything in the middle, which is you're talking about earlier, Evan. You get in these 2nd and 2s, you start in one situation, so 4th and 1. We have to be borderline gimmicky at times and very, very show eye candy emotion. We don't want to have the ability to line up and just run through somebody. And again, like, you're really asking for a lot. You're talking about playing in the SEC, some of these front sevens and D lines, but the best teams are going to do it. They're going to be able to line up and pick up the tough yards on the ground. And so, yeah, I know that sometimes, you scheme to your personnel. There's not very many schemes that you could have gotten away with or that would have been successful on the ground with the group that we had on the O-line this year. And that's just, the cold hard truth of it. So no, I don't put it all on, on Sark. I really like what you said there, Evan. You just got to be nasty, like Nash said. Get out there, get better, get nastier, get stronger to a point of attack. And, then obviously you're going to start to see a little bit of, more dividends in the run game. And so, You got to be able to run the football, man. Everything changes when you're able to do so. Imagine this Texas team and Arch Manning and how it, maybe more quickly, but also easily he would have come along if he does have a back that he can turn and hand the ball to, and that pretty much the entire offense isn't squarely on his shoulders. And so again, credit for Texas for finding a way to do so in the Oklahoma and A&M games. Kind of odd. That's the two games we really ran the ball the best in, considering the competition. And hey, I guess we'll take it. But at the end of the day, we want to see, 11, 12 games of being able to run the football, because that really opens up and unlocks levels to the Steve Sarkisian offense, the leaks, the play action, some of the deeper shots. So you want to go be a team that is capable of winning a title in 2026. Yeah, that, you immediately have to improve the ground game. Is there any running backs out there that you've seen so far that are planning on entering the portal? And Evan, let's start with you, that you saw the report and you're like, hey man, he'd look good in burnt orange and he'd fit with what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think the easy one to identify is Caleb Hawkins from UNT, because that's a guy who runs very physically, and yeah, he can run through guys who are about to go to the military in 2 years, and that's a lot easier than running through Georgia Bulldogs. But it's someone who's got multiple years of eligibility, which I've written about recently, how that's pretty important for what Sark wants to do, and also just a very efficient back who I think it was mostly zone concepts he was running. I think, correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think that's the kind of person who's been productive, is really young, has a pretty good frame for what you want out of a running back. And most likely, I mean, I'm not going to specifically speculate a guy entering the portal, but this is a G5 guy. The difference between a UNT or Oklahoma State, where Eric Morris is going, and then Texas, pretty big gap. So if that's someone that really wants a pure upgrade, that should be near the top of Texas's list. There's a few Power 4 guys who I'm wondering based on one or two that have eligibility, one that maybe could come back, but I'm not going to say names because I don't really know if they're going to enter the portal, but some guys that Texas is definitely looking at.
Absolutely. I think we all know a name or two out there that kind of gets us really, really excited. Nash, you had something to say on the last topic. What was that, brother?
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about, there's something missing in the running game and the nastiness. And you look at when we get into short area, whether it's a 3rd and short or 4th and short, a goal line, is it on the running backs that we don't get the ball in? I mean, we're getting hit at the line. We're getting hit at the line of scrimmage. 33. We're the 33 most in the nation, and hit at the line of scrimmage percent. That's meaning you're either hit at the line of scrimmage or behind line of scrimmage, and that's not on the running backs. I mean, the offensive line's job is to reset the line of scrimmage, and when you let the defense do that negatively in short area, I mean, now all of a sudden Steve Sarkisian, all of his power rushes are out the book. Think back to if Texas fans, I'm sorry to take you through this, right? But think back to 2023 in Oklahoma. If we have an offensive line that can push people around, we win that game easily. There's no 4-down stand from Oklahoma with the ball literally 3 inches away from the goal line, and we just cannot punch it in. Why? Because we cannot push it any further than that. You go to Ohio State. I mean, Texas is right now, we're a national championship favorite if we have an offensive line that can give us a little bit of push in the short area. We got down the goal line twice versus Ohio State. Their defensive line stood us up twice. It's just countless times, game in, game out. You can probably go to Florida to find multiple examples of that being the case. Now, I'd argue there's a lot more penalties and things like that were more issues that would still cost us a loss. But either way, I mean, Texas is a 10-2 team at the very least, with an offensive line that can be nasty and can get some push up front. And this is just one of those deals where I watch all these other teams on Saturday, right? And I'll watch them on goal line, and I'll just watch the running back just get in there easily, unimpeded. And I'm just like, man, how nice would that be if our running backs weren't having to run through 3 or 4 300-pound guys in a snap? But at the same time, you know what? Sometimes it is on the running back. You know what? I went to Dallas right there with this guy, and we watched Quinshawn Judkins just absolutely dog his way into the end zone for what ends up being a game-deciding score, because Texas can run off the clock and then we can kick a field goal at the end to go win the game if he doesn't fight through what was that, 6 or 7 different broken tackles. So, I mean, there's a lot that can go around. But, I mean, in my opinion, I mean, this offensive line is just – we do not get pushed when we need to. And that has to change if we ever want to have success, because Steve Sarkisian's team honestly relies off of being dominant in the power run game.
I mean, as Evan said, he wants to run a lot of inside zone. He wants to run a lot of duo, and I'm all about both concepts.
Trey's favorite run.
But you know, we can't just be successful on the edges. You got to get back to the bread and butter. Got to get stronger and better at the interior. And again, this is a huge few weeks, couple months, if you will, coming up for Texas, because you would imagine they're going to explore absolutely every avenue to get better. You assume that you're going to have one more year of Arch Manning. You want to have him upright and healthy. And maybe before that, you want to run the dang ball. Okay. You got to be able to run the ball. The quarterback position for whoever it is, doesn't matter. It becomes much easier when defenses have to stack the box a little bit and they have to respect you on the ground. And that's when you saw Arch kind of come alive in the A&M game. He was definitely a little sped up, a little bit of happy feet in the first half. And then what do you know? The ground game starts to pick up. Arch starts getting a lot more comfortable. But yeah, I mean, I haven't really seen any names where I'm just like, I got to see it. I need to see it right now as far as running backs in the portal. My eyes are kind of where you are to the names that aren't in the portal, but we know the game. You know what I mean? There's always communications going on with these guys or somebody down the road from these guys. And so we'll see what Texas does as far as the running back position goes. But yeah, if you do improve the offensive line, you've got to have a back that is capable of breaking a tackle down the field. That was a huge issue for Texas this year, is when the offensive line really did their job. They had a really clean hole, had a great rep, in particular the Ohio State game where we ran for 160, should have been about 220. But we couldn't break a tackle at the second level. So we're not even getting to the third level. And again, you saw some of the explosive plays against Oklahoma and A&M. So credit those guys for that. But that's what we're used to seeing out of Texas, not on necessarily a weekly basis, but we're used to having backs that can change games. And it's just always been in our DNA and bloodline as a program. Texas needs to get back to that. Again, we talked about that a little bit last week. We'll continue to talk about offense, but a different position. But first, we're going to go to Mr. David McClellan and hear a word from him.
Big financial decisions don't have to feel overwhelming. There's someone who can guide you every step of the way. David McClellan is a fiduciary financial advisor with Forum Financial, and he's working closely with his clients as a true financial life coach, guiding every aspect of your financial journey with expertise and care. If his name sounds familiar, that's because David was a swimmer at Texas and a member of several national championship teams. Today, he channels that same championship mindset into helping people win with their finances. David specializes in financial planning, and he's contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. And right now, David is offering viewers a free intro consultation to assess your financial situation. Do not miss this chance to get personalized guidance from a trusted expert. To schedule your free consult, email David at dmcclellan@forumfinancial.com, or you can call him directly at 312-933-8823. The contact info is in the description.
All right, guys, I want to move to the wide receiver room. Okay. Is there still hope for Ryan Wingo, in your opinion, to be this team's number one and to be on a team that is, national title contention?
Yeah, I do think so. I think you got to have one or the other. It's to win the title, you got to have the dominant receiver, the dominant quarterback, and I think Texas can have that dominant quarterback next year. And Ryan Wingo, it's so easy to say a few drops away, but his stats, if you really take away the drops at the end of the year, were quite good. And that Vanderbilt game was one he missed, but he had he had 80 yards because that's all in that first play he got. That was his only catch. His per yardage or per route production was still pretty good, even though he had those drops and a lot of targets missed him. I just think he's not going to be this 12 target guy that we originally thought he would be. And Texas still kind of leaned into him that way at the end of the year, which is really not what you're looking for with him. Now, if 4 of those targets are these really artificially produced bubble screen or one of those, I think about him in freshman year, were those screens where he'd meet an offensive lineman near the middle of the field at a hash and start running the opposite direction from where he was lined up, getting him on a linebacker one-on-one. I'm fine with that, but he can't be the third down target, I don't think, every single time, which is maybe where you're talking portal, maybe where Emmett Mosley really comes into his own when he gets a full off season with Arch Manning, which I think that could be the X factor is he and Endry's getting a full off season, full healthy years. But yeah, it's hard to sell me on Wingo is going to be this dominant number one anymore. But if he's number one in receiving yards and targets, just not like super Jeremiah Smith level, that's okay too. It's just I don't want him to be in a tier of his own because I don't think he's going to produce that way like a Smith or fill in the blank great elite college wide receiver recently.
Oh, well said. How about you, Nash?
Yeah, I think that he can be the wide receiver one. And I think that he is going to be the wide receiver one for Steve Sarkisian next year. I mean, like, I think that something that really kind of has helped him is even though his drop percent has stayed kind of the similar, stayed about the same after the Georgia game. I mean, he about like 3/4 of the way through the Georgia game or somewhere around there, like he actually started to use his hands. He started to catch the football. It's like, well, too little, too late now for that game, right? But in the games moving forward with Arkansas and A&M, you actually saw some really nice hands catches with some like, hey, he's taking on some contact while he's catching this football, and these are catches that he honestly doesn't catch earlier in the season. But you know, he showed some growth. So like, I really, you know, you got a competitor right there. You know, you got a guy that he's able to fight himself out of some mental out of a mental dump if he ever got into one. But I mean, you're looking at a dude that the lowest targets that he had was 2, and that's Vanderbilt. He got injured like 2 snaps in the game. So then out after that, the lowest targets that he got was 5 versus Oklahoma, but he was 5 for 5. And you know, I mean, that game, we all know how that game kind of went. That was more or less just we started to actually run the ball and have success, and so kind of had a little bit of an identity there. I just go and get him a contested catch guy that can sit on the other end of the field as him, and give Arch Manning an option to, you know, have a guy that he can throw it up to, because Ryan Wingo on paper should be that guy, but I just don't think he ever will be that guy, and he doesn't have to be because Ryan Wingo is a yard after the catch monster. Just get the ball in that dude's hands and let him work after the catch. But as long as he can catch slant routes and these drag routes in the future, I have no concerns in Ryan Wingo whatsoever.
You know, I like a lot of what both of you just said. I really like, Evan, you talked about, you know, maybe not a 12 target, you know, just the guy on third downs. You know, I'm thinking 7-8 is probably a really, really good number. I mean, you know, you manufacture a couple of touches, as you mentioned, and then, you know, you still obviously have him involved in the offense. I do agree with you, Nash. There will seem to be a point in that Georgia game where his attitude towards the ball in the air changed. I'm not saying he has a bad attitude, but just, you know, there's just something about, you play golf, you get the shanks, you know, you play basketball and, you know, you go on a cold streak. It's all normally mental, right? You know, you got to get past that barrier. And maybe that was over. Maybe there was just some type of barrier. Cause I mean, the guy's got good hands. Just
it might've been Arch Manning, because I remember Holly Rose, she made a point in the game, like saying, like after he had a few drops, and Arch Manning like went over there, not like shoot him out, right? But like he's like, hey man, you got this. You can catch these footballs, right? Like you got this, right?
Well, same question now, but let me ask you for Emmett Mosley. You know, does he have the potential to be a number one receiver for this offense? I kind of want to just call him old reliable, man, because I just kind of trust the guy a lot, and I think he could be a really, really solid third down option. But as far as the number one option, what are y'all's thoughts?
I think you just nailed it. I in my opinion, when I think about Ryan Wingo and Emmett Mosley, I immediately think of Xavier Worthy and Jordan Whittington. Like Emmett Mosley, he is, like you said, he's all reliable. He's going to show up. He's going to be in the right spot. He like early on, maybe the injuries was affecting his running, but also he's a guy that he doesn't he's kind of like, when I say this, I'm being very, very careful with how I say this, but he's a little bit like Vince Young, where he doesn't look like he's running. Like he looks on film, he looks slower than he's actually running, right? Like he's running faster, but on film. It's like, is that dude, is he jogging out there? You know, like you're like, is that guy jogging versus Florida? Oh my God, effort, right? No, he's out there sprinting. It just looks like that. He's got some really strong hands. I mean, he had a game where this might have been the Florida game where he just really was a bad blocker. And this is like that's not Emmett Mosley. Emmett Mosley, like almost like one of his calling cards is, I'm gonna be able to block on the edge. And
Right.
that just goes into where I think that he just kind of fills that Jordan Whittington role, because he's going, when the ball gets thrown to him, he's going to do what he needs to do. And then when the ball's not thrown to him, it's like I forget if it was the Brendan Marion quote, you know, how much you love your team is determined by how you play without the ball in your hands, or something like that. It's something to that effect. So he really feels like the glue guy to this passing offense in the wide receiver room.
We're talking about him like I call him an old reliable. You're calling him the glue. We act like he's been around for 4 seasons. We saw 7 games.
Mature. He's just
we
really
saw
mature.
7 games. Yeah, and it's just a guy that I think he has Arch's trust. I mean, from what you could tell. And again, once he's healthy and he has a full offseason, summer, being healthy and really getting into this offense and improving his body, I think he's going to be a big part of this offense. So I think number one, I don't know, Evan, I don't think we've got an answer from you yet.
Big T honestly kind of beat me to where I was going next. I'm on Mosley. I do want to see him in the slot a little more. I think that's where the blocking unlocks. I think once you're a little more comfortable in offense, you can then go to that position. So maybe that's a year 2 thing with him in the system. He has an odd amount of balls that are really uncatchable thrown to him. Like I don't know where exactly to find uncatchable target rates, but just like something like I've observed is Arch will miss him a decent bit, or kind of throw it to him when the play is not really there, which hurts his stats sometimes, like his target per catch or catches per target ratio. But I will say, like a guy where we keep talking about things that Texas kind of needs here, and it's a lot of it's deep vertical threats, a lot of it is size, a lot of it is getting guys who can be reliable hands. I know he only played 4 games this year and redshirted, but I think they might have it in house with Khalid Lockett. Like there's a reason this guy was unanimous top 5 recruit at the position. I think number 2 was where he ended at the Rivals Industry, and it's okay that he didn't play year 1. That happens. I think he came in at 6'2", 180. Like that's small for that height. So obviously needed a change in scenery when it came to strength and conditioning. But if you're talking about a guy who I want to add to this wide receiver room, who is big, strong, fast, I think the add is just on a guy already in your program who is elevating up into an actual role. If Texas were to portal this position, I wouldn't want to be a guy who steps on Lockett's toes, because that's someone I think can really be like, as much as I like Parker Livingston, I think Livingston's set in stone as maybe the number 4 guy in this group, and he can be the deep guy and will give his effort in blocking, but not some super skilled route runner, not the most reliable after the catch guy. I think Lockett gives you a bit of that, like let's throw streaks down the field and he can track a ball, because that was the big thing in his scouting reports. He really knew how to track a football, which Wingo really struggles with. And if you need a guy to do it in some kind of out dig route or something like that, something where he's going upfield and choosing right or left, and you need to throw a high pointer, he's got the size for that. I'd like that to be the guy they really elevate and make it. As much as I like Dalen McCutcheon and Jamie French, that's the one dude I'm keyed in on, as let's try to find every way we can to make him part of this offense next year, because he's too talented to just be, another, let's let him play in 8 games. He's only playing 8 snaps in those 8 games. And we've got some wide receivers who are kind of just okay in front of him. But I do wonder if they're going to go and get speed in the portal, like true, like sideline to sideline, 4-3-5 kind of guy. Maybe can run downfield, but like screens, and if you want some other offensive return man. But that would be the only one I'd really want. I don't want to super mess up this room, because I think they've invested too much just in NIL money and recruiting into the wide receivers.
Look at you, ball knower. By the way, I just want to point out, because like he was dead on. Emmett Mosley is the lowest person on the team with catchable percent of targets. With 64.4% of targets being catchable. So
that's really bad.
Yeah, and then this one honestly kind of shocks me, because I think this just shows how good he played. Because you're like, oh yeah, well, man, maybe he did almost catch everything that was catchable. Jack Andrews was the next worst, and man, he's had some really nice catches where I think back and I'm like, yeah, he might have had to do a little bit extra just to get that catch.
I will say this, it was great to see Jack, come alive, but it's funny when we get the ball to Jack. He wasn't as targeted the way that Gunnar Helm and Jatavian Sanders were targeted in Texas's offense in years past. And I think a lot of us are kind of baffled by it because, I mean, we saw the tape at Cal and you knew he had some game. Again, a guy working on his body, learning the offense. I get all of that. But, yeah, that's just one other big part of the Steve Sarkisian offense that can help out a ground game,
I think,
which, again, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that's honestly more of an Arch Manning deal. Like, I
mean,
think what you saw is Quinn Ewers likes to target tight ends, and Quinn Ewers excelled in that intermediate stuff, and that's where a lot of tight ends kind of thrive, like finding themselves getting open. Yeah. Arch Manning's just like, I'm gonna chuck this thing deep. I'm gonna park this thing 60 yards away, baby.
I mean, especially early in the year, you did see times where you had injuries running a drag or a speed out or just some short concept,
wide open,
and it's completely wide open.
Just like saying, "Please, baby."
Yeah, and so again, he would be a big returning addition to this offense, and then a guy that, that tight end room is going to be fun, man. Like, and again, we'll talk more tight ends in just a second, but that's what you can only add one, and you must choose. Would you rather add maybe a big red zone target that, can go up and win a contested 50-50 ball in the red zone where Texas has struggled to score for the last couple of years? Would you rather have a guy, as Evan mentioned, a small, twitchy, very difficult to cover in man, maybe he's great out of the slot and ability to get straight up in, just straight line speed. You look at the kind of receivers A&M added last year with Concepcion and Craver. Those are really, really fast guys and very, very difficult to deal with. So Sark has seemed, as mentioned earlier by Chris, Sark has had an affinity for that type of receiver. But what would you two do if you can only pick one? You going big body or small and twitchy?
I wanted to go both. I want to do the radio. I want both. Give them both. I think given what we got with Arch Manning, small guy, twitchy, running around wide open, 5 to 10 yards away from line of scrimmage ain't gonna do nothing for you. Give me the big guy that can go up and body a cornerback 1-on-1 and come down with a deep ball, because I think that's what you'd get a little bit more benefit out of with Arch Manning.
I think of the guys who are really solid on this team, and it's 6'4" Parker Livingston, 6'2" Ryan Wingo, and then 6'2" Emmett Mosley before you get to Khalid Lockett. It's kind of hard for me to not just go like, you got to trust your development a little bit and say we have height on this roster. If we're adding another big clunky guy, like how much is that going to change? Is he that much better than Livingston? I also don't want to add too many people in. I know the idea is in this year is you just add to make sure you have a championship roster, but yeah, I want some guys who make it a little easy for Archer. I want a little bit more home run hitting potential in that group. And like Cord said, like they're coming out in man coverage. Can he just take a kind of a rub drag route and get past a linebacker, and suddenly he's 1-on-1 downfield 40 yards in the clear, and you're scoring a touchdown with that. I think that's what Texas wanted from Silas Bolden. They didn't quite get that with him. Maybe not 5'8" like that. He was tiny. I didn't quite realize how small he would be, but I don't think they need the 6'3" plus dude, because they sort of have that already on the field.
I'm with you, man. An improved running game makes it a lot easier to score in the red zone, because obviously it's going to open up a lot of stuff that you want to do off of the running game. So I'm with you, man. You make life hell as far as putting speed out there on the field, keeping defenses stretched out, but then also continuing to run, the variations of screens that Steve Sarkisian is really good at drawing up. You know what I mean? So
I did want to add a caveat. My big guy that can go up and body cornerbacks is fast. Okay, I'm not. No, we're not putting a 4. I'm sorry, Keon Coleman. I'm not putting a 4.6 on the field. Okay, no.
Nash is getting Calvin Johnson out of the portal for Texas.
I am a speedist. Okay, I want speed on the field at all times with my wide receivers. That is,
I'm with you.
Literally check. That's number one. If you don't got speed, you ain't.
Yep, I'm with you, man. We got to get speed everywhere. It's really tough to do. If you can take man coverage away from defenses, obviously everything becomes a bit more predictable. And I'm big on running man beaters and using speed to do so. So I will say that we got a comment from Big T here asking about Mr. Ryan Williams. My comment, real quick, Mr. T or Big T, appreciate you commenting so much tonight, brother, and all you guys commenting. Y'all throw a quick like on the video for my guys here. But why is it that every time we see a Ryan Williams highlight, it's from the same game? And that game was played, 15 months ago? I think, in my honest opinion, is like my personal jury is still out on Ryan Williams. Do I want to commit a really big NIL bag? I had an Aggie tell me earlier he's ready to put the farm down for Ryan Williams. He's selling it all, and I don't know if I can. I really don't know if I could agree with that. Probably need to see a little bit more. And as Evan has been saying, I think there's enough quality in our wide receiver room to where you maybe don't have to take that type of gamble, but I'm gonna let my smarter friends talk about it now. What do y'all got for Big T?
I mean, he only had 4. I just looked it up. He only had 4 games this year over 50 yards. Like, he got schemed completely out of the Iron Bowl. He was on the bench for that. It's let that be someone else's problem. I know the raw talent's there, but drops are terrible. There's surely some sort of problems when it comes to just the overall, I guess, mental part of it, because hands and then getting kind of benched in one of the biggest games of the year, like winning in kind of game. Just let someone else deal with that. I don't need 2 wingos on the field. That's kind of the same idea if you're getting Williams.
Couldn't agree more. What about you, Nash?
If I'm going to try and poach a wide receiver from a big roster, just by sheer just like numbers of, hey, you know what? These guys, I think they have it figured out and they know what to look for in wide receivers. And maybe I might be able to get one from their roster. And I'm not talking about stars. I'm talking about backups. Go to Ohio State. I mean, you want to talk about a wide receiver factory. That place, they know what they're looking for in wide receivers. Now, maybe a lot of that's Brian Hartline, right? But you got just drop a bag on one of those on one of the backups and be like, hey, you want to play football? You want to play and get paid? Sounds like a good deal to me.
They all hit, but obviously Heartline does have a lot to do with it. Thoughts on Dalen McCutcheon? Evan, is he ready to be a big part of this offense in 2026?
I think sometimes this happens with some players where they're really ready immediately freshman year, and then sophomore year comes and it's like, well, they're not quite separating themselves ahead of other people. Some people, not that they're going to catch up to him. That's not to knock McCutcheon before he's got a chance, but I think he was really, really ready to play college football. I mean, you saw him; he caught a pass against Ohio State. But I don't think he needs to be a starter next year. I think that's one of those let him get to his junior year, take over that slot role, and really be an outstanding player, an outstanding blocker. Because I want him to get more reps before we have to rely on him. I think that's true about a lot of positions on this team with the portal. Like, let's let some of these guys who are in a really, really good 2025 class get one more year behind the scenes, and then we can unleash them 2027 on.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, man. And I will say this: we need to beat some teams down early next year, and then even a couple conference games. For that exact reason you mentioned, Evan, get the guys some reps. That is one thing you didn't really get to see out of this wide receiving room in particular, and a lot of other positions, because we just didn't have some of these dominating non-con wins where you still got really deep, and we're still putting 3rd and 4th stringers out. But I'm talking about just stress-free, go out, play the second half, get some stats, continue to learn, improve your knowledge of the offense. We'll see what you can do on the field, because so many of these guys, like many years, we got to see Lockett and McCutcheon and French and others. I mean, like we would have, when you're beating a UTEP by 47 after 3 quarters, that 4th quarter is theirs, and probably some before that. So that is one thing again, curious to see how we play the bowl game and how much youth we, rotate in at wide receiver, because I would bet that we do see some. But then again, I know Texas is going to go want to win the football game, use it, for momentum carrying into the offseason and next season, of course. Speed is definitely key for the Sark offense, and maybe Michelle, you're right on that. We go just like Evan's kind of wanting. We get a little bit more speed, and tell you right now, there's a lot of it in college football, man. Some of these kids can absolutely move. You got so many guys running over 22 miles an hour now at top end.
Well, and I think too that also when you look at McCutcheon, like kind of what Evan said, I mean, just to let alone get on the field with the starters in the Steve Sarkisian offense is impressive. To do that versus the former national champions in the goal in the red zone is also pretty impressive. That shows that Steve Sarkisian has some faith in you, that because if you've ever listened to Steve Sarkisian, the number one prerequisite for getting on the field for Steve Sarkisian is knowing where you're going. You gotta be where you're supposed to be. And the second is, if you're not going to be where you're supposed to be, you better be going fast, right? You better be going full speed. I also look at, like, he caught 6 of 7 targets last year. Multiple of them were for, good chunk gains. I mean, this is a guy that I wouldn't say that he's on my, like, I wouldn't say he's a shoo-in, right, for it, but man, my eyes are certainly peeled on watching him for taking a step up in his role this next year, because I mean that's eye opening to me, getting on the field early as a freshman.
I really hope he does continue to make that climb, and I understand Evan's point about just some guys are more football and game ready. When they're coming around. Evan, any comments? DeAndre Moore, do you expect Dre to be back in burnt orange?
Moore's such a tough one to talk about, because I'm not going to insinuate anyone's transferring or anything like that, but 2 of his 3 options are not Texas. It's draft, which I don't think he's quite ready for, and there's the portal, and then there's Longhorns, and I do wonder if they'd look for maybe another solution, because if you do add in the portal receiver, which probably is something they'd like to do, you've only lost Aaron Butler, and you have so many guys in that room that you're 10 deep of players that you'd like to find a way on the field. We haven't even talked about Jermaine Bishop's probably the best Texas high school football player we've ever seen play the wide receiver position, and he's coming in. He wants to play day one, and he's probably going to be ready to play day one. I think he's got some of those intangibles that McCutcheon's got, and so it's like, man, are you gonna? Is there a spot for more if you're really zooming out and saying we want to get the best 3 guys out in the starting lineup, which I think would be Wingo, Mosley, and then we start to ask if that's Moore, Livingston, Lockett, transfer McCutcheon, whoever you want to say. And then he's definitely not going to want to be one of the guys in that 4 through 5 and 6 area where you're definitely chomping at the bits and you want to be able to play. You can't do that to a senior. So I don't know. I don't have anyone telling me yes or no he's leaving, but that he's a hard one to assess, because he's not a game breaker, and he's not really overly productive at receiver where you have to keep him. But good locker room guy. Players all seem to love him. He really likes Texas. Like, I want to see this guy succeed in Austin. I just don't know if it's all there for that.
Yeah,
dude. Go ahead, Nash. Go ahead. You first.
I mean, I definitely would. I think it's a situation where if Moore wants to be back, you absolutely take him. Yeah. You're happy as all get out to get him back. I mean, this is a guy that among the wide receivers that have actually seen some legit amount of targets on target throws, so throws that are in stride, he has the highest catch percentage on those throws at 97.2%. So when you're giving him a good catchable football, not catchable, but like a really good on accurate football on target, I mean, he's coming down with the football and he's catching it. So he's, you're getting some reliability there. And then we all know he has some speed. But yeah, I mean, I think he's one of those guys that, to Evan's point, I mean, Steve Sarkisian, you've heard him talk about, hey, we're certainly going to let Jermaine Bishop play both sides. And when you hear the offensive coordinator talking about that, behind closed doors, the offensive coordinator is like, yeah, get over here, get over here, get on this side of the football, right? Because it's kind of like almost like a Todd Orlando trying to steal. Like, he's in there watching practice, watching Sam Ellinger run around, going, that would make a great linebacker, man. That'd make a great linebacker, dude. So, and really would. I mean, I went back and saw a photo of Sam Ellinger playing, in his Texas days, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, that was a linebacker playing a quarterback. That was that body style. But yeah, if Jermaine Bishop is a pretty good dude, and I think that there's enough talent, young talent on the team, and Steve Sarkisian, to the point that we made about McCutcheon, Xavier Worthy. I mean, Steve Sarkisian's shown plenty of instances where he is more than willing to play a freshman early on, game one against some really solid teams.
Yeah, he's not scared of that at all. I mean, we saw. Obviously, Cedric Baxter was about to be the starter of his his freshman year. You've seen a lot of other freshmen. Xavier Worthy was obviously a massive part of that offense, and several others.
When Bama came to tackle,
yeah,
big game.
So I will just share my opinion real quick. I think that Evan, you said it pretty well. Was he has 3 options, 2 of the 3. Don't put him back in the Texas uniform. And I'll just say that the transfer portal, it would make sense. I wouldn't be surprised from the standpoint of maybe go somewhere and be the dude. Maybe go somewhere and, you know, you get a lot of targets. Maybe it's not even top end like power 4. But if he ends up in Austin and stays in Austin, like, yeah, I would say that completely makes sense too. You know exactly what you're getting with him. You talk about the reliability. We all love DeAndre. We would love to see him. And personally, would love to see him finish it out here. But again, rooting for his success, and I would comprehend if he did choose, you know, to go elsewhere. But man, talk about Jermaine Bishop. That is, you know, it's hard not to smile real big. And I'm trying to tamper my expectations. But yeah, Texas has really not had a guy like that at the wide receiver position, you know, as far as what he's looked like in high school, you know, maybe ever. And then, you know, I'm not trying to knock anything that, you know, X or anybody else did, but I mean, very, very hard not to be excited for Jermaine to be here.
Look, I don't watch recruiting anymore with the current day and age that we're in. And I just watched Jermaine Bishop the other day because I have a rule where I don't watch recruiting highlights until they sign, because I'm not going to get emotionally invested. First off, I'm not going to get emotionally invested, but I'm not going to get invested and, you know, waste my time on a dude that's not going to show up in a Texas uniform. But I'm watching his highlights. That is something that gets you exciting. You're excited. You're like, oh yeah, that dude can play ball.
Yeah, we needed one like that for a long time. But I will say this, man. It's been an interesting day of college football news, as always. Yeah, college football off season it's not really off season anymore, guys. We've got news, you got all types of team news with Texas, and then the national stuff is going down. So yeah, it's a great point by CB there. Roy Williams, Shipley, Jermaine Bishop. Texas knows how to pull in these guys that you know, obviously to do some of the finer things at the high school level. Speaking of that, man, some really, really fun high school football action around the state and some really, really big matchups. Y'all get out this weekend, check some of it out. Go see a Longhorn commit or two. But Nash, thank you. Evan, thank you. Comment section, thank you. Big T. Sandman had a really hilarious comment. Actually, you have to put this up there, but that I'm not going to comment on it. But that kind of makes the day. You know what I mean? If you've been around for today's news, and there it is. That sums it all up. But you guys in the comments, I really appreciate y'all. Michelle, all y'all that were commenting, y'all go throw a quick like on the video, go share it with a friend, you know, get these views up. All right, guys. Ash, thanks so much. Evan, thanks so much. We're going to let y'all get out of here and enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you tomorrow night for another Inside Texas live show.